Hello, my name is Lin Yang. I'm going to talk to you guys about Bitcoin today. So before we talk about Bitcoin, I want to spend some time to talk about the current banking system. It may surprise you how long ago they were invented, but they're still working beautifully, actually, even as of today. More than 800 years ago, you have the ABA system where you use your check. As you can see on the check, you have the routing number, you have the account number. That's how you were able to go to a bank to hand them the information. They can transfer money to another person. That's how you identify each other financially. In 1959, the system was updated to ACH system, which is an automated system that handles the transaction request automatically, which is pretty phenomenal if you think about it, right? It's a long time ago, right? A lot of people haven't born at that time. It has a 3-day delay, but albeit the delay is actually working beautifully, even as of today. Around the same time, you have the credit card and debit card. It may surprise you, actually, debit card come after credit card. What happened is the Bank of America sent the people in Fresno this Bank of America card, which is a credit card that you can use without having the money in them first, and you can pay back. And then in 1973, you have the SWIFT system, right? More than thousands of banks all over the world on the system so that you can enable global wire transfer, money transfer. As you can see, like in this whole system that we are dependent on currently to run the financial system, the time has been so long since we invented something new, right? In year 2000, we come into the internet world. If you look into this, it's not designed for internet. There's no notion about the current way of people spending money, use money is in here. So in year 2000, this Chinese company called Tencent, they have something called QQ, and they designed this QQ coin to be the currency on the QQ platform. However, people find them valuable. They start to trade them with real life goods. So the government really didn't like it, and they stopped doing that afterwards. Around the same time, you have those American companies, PayPal, Square and Stripe, especially Stripe. You don't need to know anybody's credit card number anymore. If you are a paying a merchant, and the merchant will have a token, you pay this token. Stripe knows that's actually the account behind the token, so they can pay the merchant. You have Alipay and WeChat Pay, which are dominant players in China. China, in a way, is cashless, right? Everybody just uses those apps to do their daily transactions. However, the banking system behind Alipay and WeChat Pay is still similar to what US have. It's still very old and traditional system. We have all those companies build their infrastructure on top of the existing financing structure and try to make it work, right? And that's the situation we're in. I'm not saying there's anything bad with the current system. It's working. However, if you think about the way we are evolving, like technology is evolving, this is really a field that hasn't been touched for a while. So today's agenda, I'm going to go through the history of Bitcoin via this graph. This is actually a price graph for Bitcoin. I am not trying to focus on price. However, I do feel price is a consensus that people form around the value of Bitcoin and the system behind it in a way. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but that is one way of us looking into the value of Bitcoin. So let's go from here. Before we talk about Bitcoin, let's look back into before Bitcoin a little bit. We have this group of people called cypherpunk. They started somewhere around 1990s, and their existence is to create a either complementing or maybe replacing system to the centralized banking system. And a lot of the technology you see in here is still used in Bitcoin. It's actually Bitcoin heavily leverage those technologies, especially Hashcash, for example. That's actually the proof of work that's been adopted more or less in Bitcoin. They are early pioneers try to solve the problems. And then we go into year 2008. You have a paper being released on the website. You can still go to I think bitcoin.org or just search for Bitcoin paper online. You can see them. It's called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. I will try to explain to everybody using non-technical terms. If you are technical, I do link a link in the description of a video I really like that explain it a little bit more technically. But I think in my opinion, there are 6 key concepts in this paper. It's a very short paper, by the way. Like if you want to read it, if you're technical, you should read it. It's one of the best papers I think, out there to describe a problem that's that well. So the first one is decentralized. As you can see, like you have a centralized system like the current banking system in a way. Everybody talking to this bank, if you imagine that's a bank, and then if this bank has any issues or go rogue, everybody is screwed, right? However, that's not the problem we're worrying about. The problem, like John was talking about in the money video, is more about the role of the bank and the role of the institutions in the financial system. What are they trying to achieve, right? And then on the right, you have a decentralized system, which everybody is kind of having a certain role played in the ecosystem. They also do things, right? So Bitcoin, the concept is decentralization, as you heard about it a lot often. That's the right model, which means that everybody plays a role in the system. You have transaction signing, which means that long story short is you share something called a public key or your address. It's like your account number on the check, right? You share with other people. So when people say I want to pass the money to a certain person, everybody can see that. That's okay, but they actually cannot see the details of it until they are the person who hold a corresponding private key, and then they can in a way decipher the information in the transaction, right? So this is called the public key private key cryptography. Then if you're interested, you should read. There are a lot of videos online about those. And then let's look into something you hear quite a bit often called mining, right? You're wondering what mining is. If you see those, this is very good picture, by the way. I really like this picture. Explain it really well. You see all those transactions. You can think of them as those small blocks, right? And then you put them together. There's still a missing piece, right? And then your goal is to find this missing piece to make it complete, right? If you have different transactions, they'll have different shape of missing piece. Finding this missing piece is called proof of work. That means that the system depend on people spending a lot of effort to find this missing piece. If they did that, they'll reward them with Bitcoin, new Bitcoin. So to begin with, they had 50 Bitcoin rewarded. Right now, I think it's down to 6.25 as we are talking in 2021. That's called mining, if you heard it. It's very similar to the concept of mining in the real world, right? And you're not inventing something, it's already there, but for you to find a way to find it, and then they got rewarded. It's kind of similar concept. And then once you mine, you have a block. What is a block? Pretty much it's a lot of transactions together packed in a package. You can think of that as a block. And then we have what is called a blockchain then, right? It's everything kind of come together now. When you have a block, you will generate, look into this hash, for non-technical terms, it's like a ID for you. So everybody has a name. Every block has a hash, it's like their name. So anything change in this block, the name will change accordingly. So every block is actually referring to the previous block. That means that if you change any information in block 1, you will actually need to change everything in the consecutive blocks, because otherwise they're not referring to the previous block correctly. So they become a chain in a way. So it makes it very difficult for people to go back to history in a way to change all transactions, because they need to make sure all the blocks after it will refer to the right number. And that's not easy to do, as you probably noticed, because you need to find all those missing pieces, and they take time. So in this way, they guarantee that people put the most effort into maintaining the ecosystem will get rewarded. And at the same time, everybody will want to pick the correct one, because they also don't want to waste their energy calculating on the wrong block, on the wrong chain, right? So the financial model behind this is beautiful. I think that's probably, to me, the most amazing part of the paper. So a few months after the paper, the Bitcoin was created, it went online. The time is January 3rd, 2009, at the height of the financial crisis, if you remember. So the message in the first block, which you can still see, is the times January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. So this person, pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, sent the transaction to Hao after 6 days of the creation of Bitcoin. It's 10 Bitcoin. I'll share with you some numbers here. We have 21 million Bitcoins in total in the world. A lot of them actually either went missing, or it's dormant, which means that they are not being used for a long time, and nobody knows what's happening to either the owner or maybe the Bitcoin itself. So the real circulation should be a much lower number. We're looking at 50. That means that the reward for the first 4 years of the mining, as you remember the concept, will be 50 bitcoins. And then 10 is the approximately every 10 minutes a new block will be generated. Basically, a new puzzle will be solved, a new mining succeeded, right? And information being sent to everybody about, hey, I found this, added to your chain. 4 to 5 is about the number of transactions per second in the big Bitcoin system. 20 to 25 is about the currently, as we're speaking at May 2021, that's a transaction fee we're talking about. If you want to have a fast transaction on Bitcoin, it's $20 to $25. 1 million to 1.5 million is about the amount of Bitcoin that Satoshi Nakamoto owns. So Pizza Day is an interesting day. As you see, the BTC to USD cost is still very, very low, almost have no value. You can still find that post online, by the way. That's about 1.5 years after the. Let me zoom it in a little bit. You can see like this person saying, "I'll pay 10,000 bitcoins for a couple of pizzas, maybe like 2 large ones, have some left over for the next day, right?" And he also named he or she also named the content on the pizza. I think this is the person who did it. I'm not sure, but I know the person who bought it is actually from Europe, UK, and they paid Domino's to do the delivery. Very interesting day, right? And then let's see. And then it's the first purchase of goods via BTC. And around that time, we have quite a few organizations adopted Bitcoin. We have the EFF is still going on. WikiLeaks, for sure, right? It's suits their use case pretty well. All right, let's go forward to Silk Road, which is around 2011 to 2013, and then they had a 2.0 around end of 2014 briefly, and the price varies drastically because of this is in a way the first killer app for Bitcoin, so the price actually went up quite a bit, and it also brought a lot of bad names to Bitcoin in a way. You can see why. Like I mentioned, this is the first killer app for Bitcoin, black market for eBay. That is what it is, right? It's like a black market eBay for dark web. If you don't know what dark web is, or maybe Tor, go Google them. It's pretty much a way for people to stay anonymous online. They can visit websites that usually are not publicly available for people who don't know how to do that. You have about 150,000 buyers, and 70% of the sale on the website are drugs. So you can see why Bitcoin is a good way of paying, because there's no way to trace who's behind those. So exclusively accepted Bitcoin as a payment. As you can see, like they transacted 9.9 million in Bitcoins. Actually, at that time, the global circulating Bitcoin is around 3 to 4 million out of them. So that means that every Bitcoin is circulated at least 3 times on average on the platform, on just this one platform, right? And it's just amazing how much they've been doing with Bitcoin. Of course, federal case opened immediately after they hear about this, and they actually caught him in a library in San Francisco a few years later. Federal actually confiscated about 144,000 Bitcoins. They're worth about $8 billion today. They auctioned 30,000 of them online, and Draper, who's a very famous investor in the Silicon Valley, actually paid $17 million for them at about $560 per Bitcoin, which is a very good deal if you're looking back right now, right? And then with all those transactions happen online, where do people get Bitcoin? They cannot just always find a forum and go to meet people face to face to do them, right? So there must be a place for people to find Bitcoins and trade Bitcoins and get them, buy and sell. That's when Mt. Gox come into existence. So the time is from 2010 to 2014. The whole journey of Mt. Gox is full of scandals and problems, and it's actually not a transaction website for Bitcoin. Before it was I think some kind of game card. They have a website to sell them, and they actually repurposed the name, the domain name to be used to sell Bitcoin on the platform. So a bit of how exchange works. So exchange is like a market maker, right? So you have people go onto the exchange to say, I want to sell this currency, a digital currency or cryptocurrency at this price. Let's say $2, right? You have another buyer come to the site, say, I want to buy them at $2. In a way, they have the deal is made, and then the exchange itself will take a cut, maybe like 1%, 2%, maybe 0.1%, even lower than that maybe, and then the transaction is completed, right? They'll transfer to it. They'll transfer. The bookkeeping is done on the exchange. The exchange get the money already, so they'll just update the database to reflect that transaction. So 70% of the world BTC transaction at that time happened with one of the account being on Mt. Gox. That's how dominant they were. Of course, I mean, early days already have security breach. They have 25,000 Bitcoins. And then a few months later, they were sending the Bitcoin to an invalid address, which means that there's no private key associated with this Bitcoin. If you don't have a private key, you cannot use it. That's when you hear people lose their money. That's what it means. I give you my account number, but I lost my corresponding decipher key in a way to use that, right? So that's just a problem. And then in 2013, 2014, the withdrawal is halted. First, in 2013, they halted US dollar, and then altogether in 2014, they shut down. They claim that their 850,000 Bitcoins got stolen. In reality, it was stolen by them. So it's still a lawsuit going on, to be honest, that people still getting persecuted right now, and still new Bitcoin being discovered in a way that they stole. So it's full of problems, as we see. So this is the price chart, as you can see, right around that time when they announced they are not going to do US dollar. I think price tumbled quite a bit around this time. And then when they say you cannot even withdraw into any currency, the Bitcoin dropped from 1,000 to like 100 something in a few days. That's how bad things were. Right. All right, let's go back to the original picture that I had. Let's see where we were. Right. So let's see. All right. So we are here. We are at the Silk Road, and then around 2011. Satoshi said, I move on to other things, so he's not involved anymore. I think up until this point, we are still in a way very, very kind of interesting business, right? It's like drugs and scandal. The exchange got hacked and stolen and everything. It's really, really not a good look at this moment. However, there are people taking notice. Fast forward to year 2012, you have a new company created called Coinbase by engineering Airbnb and a person in Goldman Sachs. The goal is to create a legit, legalized or managed exchange for cryptocurrency. They actually went IPO in 2020, 2021. Gemini is created to serve the enterprise use for cryptocurrency, institutional enterprise. They also are following similar principles as Coinbase with regard to their legality of the service. Also around this time, you were having quite a bit of setbacks and adoptions. And for example, the Chinese the Chinese People's Bank, we disrupted the adoption for Bitcoin in the country. Greenspan said it is a bubble. Warren Buffett called it a mirage. Around the same time, right? And then Overstock, Zinnia, and some universities, Newegg, Dell, Microsoft, they actually adopted the currency in a way in 2013, 2014. At the beginning of 2015, we're looking at about 100,000 merchants that'll accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. We fast forward to this day of 2015 July. It's the birth of Ethereum. It's a very important cryptocurrency. It's actually almost always been the number 2 on the list. What it does is actually a cryptocurrency created. It's actually a blockchain technology created. I don't think their main goal was not being a currency. The main goal was to create a way for people to run code online called smart contract or decentralized apps, dApps, if you heard of them. They, in a way, like you can think about right now, if you want to run a website or want to run some calculation code, you find those cloud service, you go to Amazon, go to Microsoft, right? And the idea behind this is that you can just put them onto the blockchain, and then everybody on the blockchain will do it, and then you pay a fee when those transactions being recorded. Being very successful, I think, in the original goal they were trying to achieve. In the conceptual level. However, in reality, there's a big waste problem, like the efficiency is not good. There are so many different parties doing the same calculation repeatedly, that's usually low, not efficient, and it's still the problem still being looked at right now. And then because of Ethereum, there are a lot of people creating their token on the platform. So on Ethereum, you can create your own currency, very easily. There's even a website. You can just go in and type your information, and you can find your own you can create your own token. And then we go into this very, very wild era for about 1 year. It's called ICO craze. Basically, like everybody just claim they have a project and then release a token on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, and then people just pour money into it because they anticipated they will be the next 100-time coin, which is very similar to what's happening in 2020, 2021. The price drove up from 1,800 to about 20,000 in a few months. Crazy times. However, like during this time, there are quite a bit of software or company actually got quite successful in what they were trying to achieve. And I'll make an example of DeFi and NFT, and let's just look into what problem they're trying to solve and how they're doing. All right, so for DeFi, I'm going to show you a few examples here. DeFi stands for decentralized finance. What it means is that instead of leveraging a centralized bank or institution, which will charge you transaction fees and manage fees and everything, they want to move the financial activities online using code in decentralized way. So that, for example, you have some token you wanna lend to people and incur interest. You can just do it online using the software instead of having to talk to a bank or maybe a financial institution for them. Those are some companies actually in this field. Some of them are decentralized exchanges. Some are DEX protocols. Some of them are oracles, which means that they bring the real life data onto the blockchain. Quite a few companies actually come out of this wave. Now let's talk about NFT. The NFT stands for non-fungible token, which means that pretty much means that you have a digital way of proving you own something. So for example, like you have Charmin doing those toilet paper art for $2,000 each. Like look at the top right meme that sold for over $500,000, and Jack Dorsey's first tweet sold for $2.9 million, and the pixelated art online that sold for almost $70 million. Those are all digital contents. The big company that actually started to involve in this is NBA. They create something called NBA Top Shot, which is you can buy the kind of highlight moment on NBA.com that claim you have the ownership of those highlight moments. And then you can later sell them. The reason they're this high, of course, as everything else in this world, in crypto world, is because people think they can just sell them at a higher price later. So that's pretty much what's happening now. I'm not sure where we will go though, because I can see some use cases where they can be valuable, but definitely not this way, in my opinion. I also want to talk to you a little bit about my own startup experience back in 2018. Me and a whole bunch of friends, we actually did a startup on crypto back in 2018 for about a year. What we were trying to provide is a layer 2 FTTT solution for blockchains, and to enable some use cases that was not possible before. The problem we were facing is that the more we do those, the more we find out like the use cases are more kind of related to money transfer, value transfer, exchange, all those traditional, traditional crypto problems. We were really hoping to kind of expand the bubble a little bit, like expand it to day-to-day use cases. And then we're just not able to find too many use cases like that. Of course, that means that little traction, and then one thing lead to another, we decided to fold it early. So it was quite interesting because we all got involved in crypto fairly early, and then we also got fascinated by the technology behind it. But the problem is just it was very early. I think even today, if you look into this field, it's still very early. It's unfortunate. Maybe I'll do another run. I don't know, but at least that time it was too early for what we were trying to accomplish. But it was fun, a lot of fun. We fast forward to 2020, COVID hit. Of course, at the peak of it, Bitcoin was worth over $60,000 during this time. So what happened really, right? So if you think about the time that COVID hit, in 2020, 22% of the US dollar created in the entirety of the lifetime of US dollar was created in 2020. So we have zero interest rate and a lot of money got printed. In a way, the value of cash got devaluated drastically. I think you can probably feel that today, right? There's quite a bit of things that got a lot more expensive than before. The inflation and dilution is crazy. So people need to find alternative ways to put their money in. So instead of keeping them as cash, because cash will just get a lot less valuable. We have everybody want to do that, especially given like nobody have other activities right now. Bitcoin got looked at a lot, and people are asking questions. What is this again? Like, tell me more about it. All right, that sounds interesting. I'll put some money down in there, right? So, of course, when one thing drives to another, it's not really a chicken neck. It's really a chicken neck problem. People see the price go up, then jump in more, and then people, that kind of have a circle, tripling effect for Bitcoin's price. So right now we're looking at people like Elon Musk and just kind of putting fuel on the fire. I am not really enjoying it, to be honest. As somebody who really interested in the technology and the story behind it, I feel this is actually not a healthy time. However, just like every single time before, if you look back into the chart we were having, every single time, this is a good time for us to actually looking back and try to summarize. If you look into Coinbase, right, it's created after the Mt. Gox. The worst version of it is seen and it failed, and then Coinbase is created. You have Ethereum, which is built on top of the idea of Bitcoin, right? And then you have all the DeFi and NFT, which is built on top of Ethereum. Of course, also born from the ICO craze. God knows where they're going to head to. And also, like in the current craze, there are a lot of money going into this. I'm sure there will be a lot more legit teams starting to look into real problems. And to be honest, I still don't know what they are. Like what kind of problem like we can easily fix with the technology we have in hand, which is beautiful technology. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to link the dot here. Everything you see is a result of something happened before. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I think that's the end of the history part. I feel we are reaching to 2021. As I'm talking today, I think the Bitcoin price is around 42,000, maybe 48,000. I don't follow the price that much, so I don't know exactly what the number is, but around that number. That tells you the Bitcoin has gone a long way. Now let's talk about environment impact. Just a few days ago, Elon Musk pulled the transaction on Bitcoin on the Tesla website, claiming it has environmental issues. Come on, man! It's like he just known about this 2 days ago. This has been the issue forever. Yes, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. That's the same as a lot of the other cryptocurrency, but they use a lot less than Bitcoin. How much do they use, right? It's estimated that about 0.5 of up to 0.5 of global electricity consumption is used by Bitcoin. If you do this ranking, it's around the same number as Norway and maybe Argentina. About in 30 years, Bitcoin could probably increase global temperature by 2 degrees Celsius alone by itself. About 65% of the mining, cryptocurrency mining or data energy usage is happening in China, which the electricity is a lot cheaper. But still, this is a big number. This is a really big number. On average, we're looking at about 100,000 times transaction cost than the traditional transaction using the traditional system. Now let's talk about the future of this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, or in general. All right, so on Reddit, there are 2 subreddits kind of go hand in hand. One is called Bitcoin, the other one is called cryptocurrency. Basically, one is mocking the other one because they really don't understand why those stupid activities happening. And then you can see, like, for example, in cryptocurrency, those kind of poses happens all the time. And I'm sure there are a lot of legit people who really are interested in the technology and the mission behind cryptocurrency in there. But also you have those misleading informations, like 40% of consumer planning to use cryptocurrency as payments. MasterCard survey shows, right? Of course, if you go into the real article, there's a lot of caveats for it to say, oh, by the way, it's just not what it is. And then you can see, like on Bitcoin, they always point out obvious problems in this platform in a way, right? And claiming that it's not going anywhere. You also have this on the right bottom corner. You have this beautiful chart showing when Tether is printing. You know, like Tether is a stable coin, or you can think about it as US dollar on the crypto world, and they are not backed by US dollar, by the way. Like they can claim they have, they claim they are, but in reality, like I don't think any audition happened. So when they have a lot more currency in reserve, in a way, like the price of Bitcoin just went up. So it's very, in a way, like people are trying to show it's manipulated. So all of this matters when we talk about future. In my opinion, futures, I know. Sorry, like I think a lot of people come here to anticipate I give you a different answer. Let's talk about the let's talk about it in more detail though. And you have gold. You know, a lot of people say Bitcoin is a decentralized gold or cryptocurrency gold. They have about $9 trillion worth of gold in the world, but a lot of them is used as a in jewelries and not currency ways. Basically, like you can do the math right now. If the current valuation is close to $1 trillion valuation for Bitcoin, all the Bitcoin in the world. Of course, that way of calculation is not good because there are quite a bit of Bitcoin is actually not in circulation. So we don't really know, the overall value for Bitcoin is right now for the ones who are still being circulated. So doing those math, have a mental model in your mind. Like think about the original journey when Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin was created as a way of payment, right? We want to create a financial, kind of in a competing financial system as a centralized bank, given the message in the first block is, right? But I don't feel it's actually serving that need right now because of the high transaction fee, because of the the low efficiencies and the waste of energy. All of those doesn't make it a good day-to-day transaction mechanism. One can argue it's actually a good store of value as one of the three major components or characteristics of a currency, which may be true, by the way. Like because, of course, I'm not going to put my money I'm going to use for buying a house down pay in there if I'm going to use that down pay in 3 months. But if I'm talking about like a long-term part of my portfolio, like putting some money in there just as an insurance, why not, right? So, it's difficult to say like what is the upper or lower limit for this Bitcoin is, because it will always be there. At the same time, it may not go anywhere. By saying it not may go anywhere doesn't mean that it's going to disappear. It still have followers, it still have its usage, but the original goal why people created it may not be true anymore. It may never be true, right? So then the value of it is in question, right? So that concludes my introduction. It's the first time I make such videos, so I may not be the best at doing it. Thank you for spending this much time with me, and really appreciate it. And if you got interested in technology side of things, I highly recommend this book called Mastering Bitcoin. It's the best book, in my opinion, to learn cryptocurrency or blockchain technologies. As you can see, very funny on the price side, you have the lowest price happened when the price of Bitcoin was the lowest in 2018 July. And then of course it got picked up when the market got hot again. So that's just like everything else in cryptocurrency world or blockchain world. It's just very wild and very speculative and very fun, in my opinion. So that's it. Thank you for spending time with me, and I'll see you in the next video.